The most dangerous moment in any relationship is not the moment of conflict, but the moment of absolute silent withdrawal, because it is in that void that the true architecture of her regret is finally constructed, brick by agonizing brick, a structure she never intended to build, yet one she cannot escape once your energy is truly gone. This is the psychological reality that few men ever grasp, a truth rooted not in manipulation, but in the fundamental laws of human attachment and emotional valuation. For too long, you have operated from a position of emotional surplus, pouring your focus, your validation, and your very identity into a dynamic that was never designed to reciprocate. You were the constant, the predictable anchor, and in the cold, hard calculus of human behavior, the constant is rarely valued until it becomes the variable, until it becomes the absence, the silence that screams louder than any argument you could ever have initiated. The shift from pursuit to detachment is not merely a change in behavior. It is a profound, seismic re-engineering of the entire relationship ecosystem, a move that triggers a cascade of psychological mechanisms within her that are entirely beyond her conscious control. The first and most critical mechanism is the disruption of the validation loop. For years, she relied on your attention as a steady, reliable source of self-esteem, a constant mirror reflecting her worth. And when you detach, that mirror shatters, leaving her to face a sudden, terrifying void where her external validation used to reside. This is not about missing you as a person initially. It is about the sudden, jarring loss of a vital psychological resource, a resource she had taken for granted, much like the air she breathes. The second mechanism is the activation of the scarcity principle, a core tenet of behavioral economics that applies just as ruthlessly to emotional resources as it does to diamonds or gold. When you were abundant, your value was low. But the moment you become scarce, the moment your availability drops to zero, your perceived value skyrockets. This is why the regret is never immediate. It only crystallizes after the realization sets in that the supply has been permanently cut off, that the well has run dry, and that the resource is now finite. The third and most potent mechanism is the psychological void. Human psychology abhors a vacuum, and when you withdraw your emotional energy, you create an emptiness that her mind is compelled to fill. But it cannot fill it with anything positive. It fills it with questions, with self-doubt, with obsessive rumination about what went wrong and, crucially, about what she lost. This is the fertile ground where regret takes root, transforming from a fleeting thought into a deep, pervasive emotional state. She begins to replay the past, not through the lens of the present comfort she enjoyed, but through the lens of the current discomfort she is experiencing. Suddenly, the small sacrifices you made become monumental. The moments of connection she dismissed become priceless, and the stability you offered becomes the one thing she desperately craves. This is the mirroring effect. In its most brutal form, you are simply reflecting her own emotional distance back at her, but with a critical difference. She was the one who initiated the distance, the one who was emotionally avoidant. And she expected you to react with the predictable anxiety, the chasing, the negotiation, the begging that would confirm her power and her narrative. But when you respond with silence, with calm, and with genuine, non-performative detachment, you shatter her entire framework. You deny her the emotional payoff of the chase, and you force her to confront the consequences of her own actions. Without the distraction of your reaction, the true power of your detachment lies in its authenticity. It cannot be a tactic, a game, or a performance designed to elicit a response. It must be a genuine, internal shift where your focus moves entirely from her, and the relationship to your own purpose, your own growth, and your own self-respect. This is the moment you transition from the anxious attachment style, which is characterized by a fear of abandonment and a constant need for reassurance, to the secure attachment style, which is characterized by self-sufficiency and emotional regulation. And it is this transition, this profound internal realignment, that she perceives as the ultimate threat, because it signifies that you no longer need her to validate your existence. The regret she feels is a complex, multi-layered emotion that begins with cognitive dissonance. Her mind struggles to reconcile the image of the man, who was desperate for her attention, with the reality of the man, who is now thriving without it. This dissonance creates mental friction, forcing her to reevaluate your worth and her decision to let you go. This is followed by reactive devaluation, where she initially tries to convince herself that you are not worth missing, but this defense mechanism quickly collapses under the weight of the psychological void, leading to the third stage, the fear of irreplaceable loss. She realizes that what she lost was not just a partner, but a specific, unique quality of devotion and stability that she cannot easily replicate, especially not with the kind of men who mirror her own emotional unavailability. The entire dynamic is a stark lesson in emotional equilibrium. She had pushed the relationship out of balance by taking more than she gave, by demanding more than she offered. And your detachment is the universe's way of restoring that balance, a powerful, undeniable force that pulls the rug out from under her feet, forcing her to stand on her own emotional ground for the first time. The suspense in this process is the waiting, the silent, agonizing period where you maintain your detachment, knowing that the psychological wheels are turning, that the seeds of regret have been planted, and that they require only the fertilizer of your continued absence to bloom into full-blown realization. Your silence is not empty. It is a psychological mirror that reflects her own shortcomings and misjudgments back at her, a mirror she cannot look away from, because it is the only thing left in the room. The beautiful, punchy sentences that capture her attention are the ones that speak to this internal conflict, the realization that her freedom has come at the cost of her security, that her independence has been purchased with the currency of your devotion, and that the grass she thought was greener was merely an illusion, a mirage created by the comfort of your constant presence. The flow of this narrative is the flow of her internal experience, the initial relief of freedom, the creeping unease of the void, the sudden sharp pang of loss, and the final crushing weight of regret. It is a journey from arrogance to humility, from certainty to doubt, a journey that only begins when you step off the merry-go-round of her emotional games and choose the path of self-respect and genuine self-focus. The facts are undeniable. Emotional investment creates emotional leverage, and when you withdraw that investment, the leverage shifts entirely. The man who is truly detached is the man who has achieved internal locus of control, meaning his happiness and self-worth are derived from within, not from her approval or presence. And this is the single most attractive and terrifying quality a man can possess in the eyes of a woman who is accustomed to controlling the emotional temperature of a relationship. Her regret is the inevitable consequence of her miscalculation, the delayed reaction to a psychological shockwave you initiated the moment. You chose yourself over the pursuit of her. It is the sound of her ego, finally cracking under the pressure of your unshakable peace, a peace she once disturbed but can now only observe from a distance she created, a distance she now desperately wishes to close but cannot, because the bridge she burned was the one you were standing on, and you have since built a new, stronger foundation on the other side, a foundation that no longer includes her instability, her inconsistency, or her need for constant validation. The final, undeniable truth is that her regret is not a sign of your victory, but a confirmation of your transformation, a testament to the fact that you have mastered the most difficult art in the human experience, the art of letting go, and in that letting go, you have finally become the prize, the scarcity, the silence that she can no longer afford to ignore, the silence that will haunt her until the end of her days, the silence that is the sound of her regret. This transformation is the ultimate catalyst for her internal chaos, as she realizes that the man she once manipulated with ease has evolved into a force of nature that she can no longer influence or predict. Her regret is the heavy price she